We're going to be putting a TH350 in Little Red, so this car is finally going to have a reliable transmission. It's the transmission that came out of my brother's El Camino. Little Red's gone through yet another 700 R4. This one overheated on me at the track. We're going to get that installed in this video. I'm going to show you guys how to do a TH350 swap on a C4 Corvette with the C brace. We are going to have to get a spacer and a couple things from Summit, but I'll show you guys the whole entire process. So that's going to be today's video. I'm going to back the car out real quick, flip it around, we'll get it up in the air. I don't have a lift, so we're doing this on the floor. Should be in pretty good shape after this. Then we can finally take the car out, make some content, and get to the racetrack. Let's get the car started, get a cold start on video on the carburetor, get it all situated up on jack stands, and we'll start removing the third 700 R4 out of this car. So we got the car jacked up as high as it'll go. Now I got to squeeze under there. So I got 18mm nut and washer on the top. Number 2. So we're gonna have to probably get a jack under here, support the bottom of the transmission. Let's go to the back ones. Are they the same size? Of course not. They're way bigger. Okay. There's one clip out. We'll go back and park. This is drive shaft. Should go into the transmission just enough. There we go. Okay. Into light. There's our drive shaft. There we go. Lower it, twist it, and that's how you do it. C-brace removed. So now we're going to want to remove our shift linkage. There's that. We got to remove this little cotter pin. One of these needle nose. There you go. Shift cables removed. Get all these guys removed. Like so. From there, we're going to have to take this cover off the bottom, loosen our converter bolts. We should be able to loosen all the bell housing bolts. We'll have a strap around this, slide it backwards and straight down, and our transmission will be out. 10mm takes the torque converter cover off. Now if you guys saw the previous video, I already disconnected the transmission fluid lines. There we go. There's our torque converter cover. Alright, so we're going to sneak under here. We're just going to use a pry bar to spin our flex plate. If you guys want to bump the starter, you guys can do it that way, but this way works too. And I'm underneath the driver's side, right by the oil filter. If you can get a bolt right here in this position, you can get a socket on it without a problem. And then when you go to loosen it, you can use your pry bar to keep the torque converter in place. So it is a 15mm, and you try to push it, it's going to try to turn the torque converter. So you can use your pry bar to stop it. One's loose. Take it out the rest of the way with the ratchet. So there's number 2. There you go, there's 2. There's number 3. There's 3. And like that. Torque converter is now free from the flex plate, and we should be in good shape to remove our bell housing bolts, and that should be really the last thing. This transmission's out. So now for the bell housing bolts, we're going to grab the good old Milwaukee, and we're going to need about as much reach as we can possibly get with extensions, and we're going to need a 9/16 socket. We're going to try to get our strap up over our transmission here. Wrap it up in here. Yeah, we're really going to have to reach one up top here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but There's one. We'll save the easier ones for last. Lower this. That'll give us some space. So we got 2 up top and 2 on each side. So a total of 3 on each side. So a total of 6 bolts. We got the first one top left out. Let's shoot for top right. Alright. Top right's out. Now the last 2 are definitely not as bad. Try to raise it a bit. There we go. So our dipstick tube's caught, it looks like. Yeah, dipstick tube, we'll pry that up. There we go. That's out. Bring it down. Damn, alright. Well, it wasn't as smooth as I planned, but it's loose. So it should be able to jack it up right here from the front cross member. We got to get it pretty high up in the air without it sliding off the back jacks. That's kind of what we're dealing with. So as you guys saw, we got the 700R4, the third 700R4 pulled out of Little Red. I'm gonna take a trip up to Summit. We're gonna need the spacer. I'm gonna get a shifter. So we're gonna have a new shifter in the car. You'll see the installation of that. And a couple extra little goodies for this car that I'll show you guys in just a little bit. So make a trip up to Summit, spend some money. We'll be right back. So we got the 700R4 off of the trans jack, got the trans jack up underneath the TH350, removed it from the El Camino engine, but I did run up to Summit, picked up this B&M Z-Gate shifter, so we're going to be installing this. This is the adapter plate from the 700R4 to the TH350. I'll put the part number up on the screen. Basically, we're going to be removing this TH350 tail housing. This will be bolting right up to it, and that's going to be extending out. And we're going to be able to bolt this 700R4 tail housing to it, and then these 2 bolt holes are for the C-brace. We need that to be able to install the TH350. So we're going to see how this works. I'm assuming this dipstick might be kind of tough to get up in there. If it is, I did pick up this flexible transmission dipstick. We're going to have to remove our center console, remove our factory shifter. We'll see how this Z-Gate mounts in there. Should be able to still use the center console, make it kind of look like a factory fit. We'll figure that out. We're going to find out. You guys are learning just as much as I'm learning, so I appreciate the support. And yeah, let's get to it. We got a couple things that we're going to figure out here together. First, we can open up our adapter. Comes with some studs here and some nuts. Lubricate our O-rings with some transmission fluid, and same with the O-ring here. Slide our adapter on. Tail housing, same way. We're going to hope that our drive shaft still catches the tail shaft of the transmission. That's kind of the gray area that I got to figure out. As far as the speedometer gear, I'm not sure. Yeah, so our speedometer gear is not touching. I think we're gonna cut our losses with the speedometer gear, which is okay. To get our drive gear to line up with the speedometer sensor gear, we would basically have to tear apart the whole transmission and put a longer tail shaft in. I care more about the car actually running than getting the speedometer working, especially right now. I could also use an app on my phone for a little bit. I just want to drive the car, I want to race it, be able to do some stuff with it. So that was our first problem, was our speedometer gear. Our second problem, tail shaft is sitting about 1 3/4 inches inside the tail housing, which means that our drive shaft yoke, our slip yoke, barely catching onto the splines. You can get an extended slip yoke. I'll show you guys how to do that. And if you have a TH350 with a longer tail shaft, I know they make them 6-inch, 9-inch, and 12-inch, I'm pretty sure. And I got the short one, so that's why we're dealing with this. If you guys have a longer tail shaft, then you might not have to worry about this. So we're hopping in the truck. We're gonna head up to Summit and pick up an aftermarket slip yoke for the Corvette drive shaft. I'll put the part number up here. There we go. There's all of our needles. You want to be careful. Don't lose any of these. Now I can flip it over, do the same thing. Okay. So that's our current yoke compared to this one, which if you guys take a look, we definitely stick out a little bit longer here. There we go, guys. That's what we need. So we can now reassemble our tail housing. Cool. So we'll give you guys a little bit of a better look here. If you don't have a snug fit, if one of them wiggles around, then you're missing a needle. So just like that, you want to make sure there are no gaps between all the needles. And you also want to make sure that they're sitting on the little lip in the bottom. Those are all set. You don't want to pack a crazy amount of grease in there because that'll actually cause them to fail. So I didn't really lose any grease when I took these off, and there's still some grease on the drive shaft, so we should be in good shape to reinstall these with our new slip yoke. There's one. Flip it over, tap this side down. There you have it, new slip yoke installed. This guy back under here, and we'll lower it down real slow. So now that we have the transmission up underneath the car, we're going to move our way into the interior. We're going to remove this center console, remove the factory shifter, and we're going to unbox our B&M Z-Gate shifter here. Install instructions. We got some B&M stickers for the car. Here is our shift cable. This is our shifter cover. So these are the switches for our reverse light and probably our neutral safety switch. These are mounting hardware. That's our big cover. We'll see if we end up using that or not. This is our shift knob or handle, and there's our actual shifter. It sits up pretty tall. So we'll see how we end up doing this. So we'll have a Z-Gate slap shifter. We'll be able to have it in the car from first gear, bump second, bump third, and then we can pop it into neutral. So, looks like we got some Phillips heads, and in here we got a few bolts to take out. So, let's start by taking off this little lid here. So that should move just enough so that we can get to these 4 bolts down here. Let's remove these. We got some Phillips heads here, Phillips heads here, Phillips heads here. We might have to take this part of the dash off as well. Put the shifter here in drive, so that we got some room to pull this off. Got a couple up top here. Looks like these need to come out as well. There are 2 there, 2 here. That I need a screwdriver for. Get these 2 out on the passenger side. That's why I don't feel bad tearing into this car, guys. Not the most pristine Corvette out there, so everything that we do to it is essentially making it better. There we go. Kind of bring it out sideways so we don't hurt our dash. There we go. Alright, so our center section's out. Cigarette lighter. Pop the tabs for that. That comes off. Alright, so we're gonna need a little flathead screwdriver now, and we can pop the top of our shifter off. That'll give us the room to pull this all the way out with the boot. So we'll just try to get in here on the side just like that. That'll come out. Looks like a little snap ring in there. Second guy in there and pry up. There we go. Did that work? Yep, that worked. Okay. Now this should slide right off. And we have our little indicator light that you want to remove. And there we go. I think 2 mounting bolts there, 1 mounting bolt there, a little wiring harness once we get it loose. 10 mil. That should be 3, but it might be nut and bolted. Yeah, I think so. So good thing we did this before putting the transmission in. So grab the impact. Yeah, in between those two lines.
Right here?
Yeah, so go ahead and put it on there.
Okay.
So let me get under there. Alright, go ahead. Zip it. Alright. That's all I needed. So there's another bolt right there. To get to that, it looks like I'm going to have to take this center section out. This little lock for the glove box, I think I'm going to have to undo. I will. So it's a little tiny bolt in there. So this looks like it'll actually come out. Yep. Hell yeah. Alright, dude. Down at the bottom, probably the seat belt. Yeah, so it's being held on by the seat belt, but we got it pried out enough that we can take this whole center black piece out. Underneath this carpet, there are a couple hidden bolts. There's one, actually. Yep, so there's a bolt, there's two. So these two bolts in here have to come out. So now we're running into is all these switches. Pull these out real quick. Hell yeah, dude. That's how you do it. So now we can get to that last bolt pretty easy. Like that. Alright, shifter removed. Let's get this guy in the car. Just to kind of mock up, see where we're going to be at. Take our shift boot out. Shift boot comes out. This is just to mock everything up first. Yeah, so it's sitting up a little bit higher, this part here, and we're running in to a height problem, it looks like. So we might have to do some trimming. I'm kind of fully committed to going aftermarket on this car anyway. So I know beforehand I was talking about putting the car back to original possibly, or at least making that an option still, but I really want to deck this thing out. So I guess we're going to cut the console. We're going to trim this little piece back. So I ran over to Grandpa's and cut a little piece of metal here, 8.5 by 5 inch roughly. It's not a real fancy cut or anything, but it's just to cover over this hole that we have here so that our shifter can have a flat mounting surface. And like I mentioned before, all this stuff's going to get covered up anyway, so it doesn't have to look crazy pretty. We just need it to work. So should be able to mount right, well, move it up a little bit. We'll get all the cobwebs off of the drill press. It's going to be my first time using this drill press. It's been sitting here since I moved into this garage. Finally get to put it to work. Test fit our plate. See if our holes line up. Looks like it. Now let's get our shifter back in here. We're going to move it over slightly from where our original holes were. That looks pretty straight. So if you're grabbing it here, and then center console. So that's where we're going to put it. We're going to mark these holes. And these ones we're going to want to be a little bit more precise with. So there we go. All 4 bolt holes are marked for the shifter base. We don't want to kink this cable. Right now we're coming up through and we got some tension on it right where it comes up through the boot, and then if we try to angle it this way to fit in the bracket up to our shifter right, it's basically going to be kinking it this way. So we definitely don't want that. We'll ruin a $90 cable pretty much with one shift. So I think what I'm going to do, which kind of sucks because I already tightened down the shifter, is unbolt the shifter. We're going to drill another hole right about here at an angle so that we can get this proper angle, Then that way we're not risking breaking the cable, we're not risking it binding up. I'll unbolt the shifter off camera real quick, and I'll cut to me drilling the hole, and then we'll get it all put back together. There we go. So now we have a nice fancy slot. Gives us some wiggle room. There we go. So our shifter install is complete. Let's check out these wires, see which two are the reverse lights, and then we'll get those spliced onto our switches. Are they on? Okay. Well, that's all I needed. It's those two middle ones then. Thanks, dude. That's all I needed. I can go to the reverse light switch. So we'll disconnect our battery, cut my starter wires, or my two thicker ones, my green and yellow. And then these two middle ones, the blue and the green, go to the reverse switch. Let's just get rid of the whole harness. There we go. All right. So that should be wired up. So I got some blue thread locker that we're going to be using for the torque converter bolts. So there's number 2. There's 3. So our torque converter's now in. So this part is the part that's sketching me out a little bit, but we're going to find out if this is going to work. So we have our drive shaft with the extended slip yoke, and we have our C-brace. The TH350 is a little bit, I want to say, longer now than the 700, so we're probably going to have to alter the bolt holes on the C-brace, but we'll get it up in there and try it out. And then I'm hoping that our drive shaft does reach far enough to have enough spline. We need to be on there about 1 inch to 1.5 inches at least to be safe, so full suspension extension, we're not running into our slip yoke coming off the back of the transmission and throwing the drive shaft out of it. We definitely don't want that. So after that though, that's kind of our final step. Then we'll hook up our shift cable, put our console back together, and we should be able to drive this thing. There we go. Dude, that's perfect. That's gonna work awesome. So let's get our C-brace under here now. There we go. Line it up. Alright, so right there we're lined up with our 2 holes in the rear. And the front, we are not. So we're going to have to do a little bit of modification to the C-brace.
1 eternity later.
Alright, now that I got some slots, let's try this again. Yes, sir. Hell yeah, dude. Finally get our trans jack out of here. So as you guys can see, we have our shifter all the way in park, and to hook up our shift linkage we're going to want to have this turned all the way clockwise right there. That should be park. And this is going to be what adjusts the shifter. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I ran up to Summit, picked up a couple fittings and some transcooler lines that we're going to run to our radiator. So these 2 fittings are going to thread into these 2 fittings that came off of the TH350 that will convert this to a -6 AN line running this to our radiator. So this also comes with a couple fittings, so I'll put all the part numbers on the screen for you guys that might be following along and doing this yourself. But we're going to hop underneath the car, we're going to get these cooling lines installed, we're going to be checking our fluid and everything, making sure that the transmission's in good shape, make sure it shifts through all the gears, and that our fluid level stays good, make sure there are no leaks anywhere, and then we'll take this car out and rip it today. There we go. Those guys are tight. if you guys couldn't tell, Little Red shifted through all the gears. We have 1, 2, 3, and reverse. So I guess the last thing I gotta do is hop in the car, put the center console back together, and take this car out for a drive. So tomorrow we got some pretty good weather. Right after I get out of work, we're gonna come over to the garage, get the car warmed up again, check all the fluids, and we'll take her out for her first drive. I'm super excited.
The next day.
Let's try it out. Oh yeah, perfect shift. Got third? Yes we do. Hell yeah, dude. Little Red's back, baby. Finally. Man, dude, I've had this car since I was 14 years old and it's never ran right. She's running cool. 171 degrees, we'll turn off the fan. Man, dude, this is awesome. I might have to make some adjustments to the carburetor. I just got it set to idle, so next video, like I said, we're gonna take the car out, make some test hits, really dial in the carburetor. I'm pumped. I'm so pumped. Well, like I said, guys, next video, I'm gonna take the car out on the street, dial in the carburetor a little bit more. We'll get it full of gas, probably clean it up a little bit, and that'll be the real first drive. So stay tuned for that video. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. See you guys next time.